The blood rushed to my fingertips, making them tingle as I gripped the key card to my own hotel, while my sister blocked the entrance. Behind her, my father's booming laughter spilled out from the Grand Azure's marble lobby, a sound that once meant safety, but now burned like a brand. "You can't seriously think you're coming in," Vanessa said, her voice dropping to a condescending whisper. She shifted in her designer dress, an obvious knockoff I'd recognized the moment I saw it, one my friend had shown me in early sketches over lunch just last week, and planted herself more firmly in the doorway. "This is the Grand Azure, Ellie. The tasting menu alone costs more than you make in a month." If she only knew. I'd created that menu with our Michelin-starred chef. "He's my father too," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. The small envelope in my clutch suddenly felt like it weighed 100 pounds. Inside was the deed to one of the Grand Azure's most exclusive properties. A villa in Tuscany. My name is Eleanor Villa. I'm 38 years old, and I am a hospitality entrepreneur. This is the story of how I reclaimed my place at a table I already owned. Vanessa smirked. "Mom and Dad were very specific," she said, checking her reflection in the glass doors. "They only want successful people here, people who won't embarrass the family." The irony hit like a gut punch. Yesterday, I'd signed off on a $100 million expansion for the Grand Azure chain. Today, I was apparently too embarrassing to step into my own hotel. 10 years ago, when I left the family's small accounting firm to study hospitality management, they all but disowned me. My father's words still rang in my memory. "No daughter of mine is going to be a glorified waitress." So I let them think what they wanted. Let them imagine me scraping by in some struggling restaurant. Meanwhile, I built Azure Hospitality Group into one of the most successful luxury hotel chains in the country. The so-called glorified waitress now owned 35 five-star hotels across 3 continents. "Eleanor." My mother's sharp voice cut through my thoughts. She appeared behind Vanessa, her eyes narrowing the way they did when she was about to deliver a quiet humiliation. "What are you doing here?" "We discussed this." No, they had discussed it. I'd received a text that morning from her. "Don't come to Dad's birthday. It's at the Grand Azure. You can't afford it. Don't embarrass us." "I brought a gift," I said softly, holding up the envelope. "Oh? What is it?" "A gift card to Olive Garden." Vanessa laughed, her voice loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Or did you scrape together enough tips for something from the mall?" My mother's gaze lingered on my clutch, a handmade Italian leather piece that cost more than Vanessa's car. "Whatever it is," she said coolly, "I'm sure your sister's gift is more appropriate. She just made junior partner at her firm, you know." I knew. I also knew her firm was in negotiations to lease office space from one of my buildings, a lease they couldn't quite afford, one my real estate division had sent me the details of yesterday. "Vanessa's doing so well," Mom continued, her voice warming as she turned toward her favorite child. "New house in the suburbs, luxury car, wonderful fiancé with such good prospects." Then her eyes came back to me, scanning like a ledger in the red. "And you, well, at least you're trying." I thought about my penthouse overlooking Central Park, the collection of rare sports cars in my private garage, the jet I had flown in on that morning. "Yes, Mom," I said, my voice quiet but certain. "At least I'm trying." And in that moment, I decided this would be the last time they mistook my silence for weakness. "Speaking of trying," Vanessa smirked, "that dress couldn't be what you actually chose. You could have made an effort. This is the Grand Azure, not some diner." I ran my hand over the black silk, custom-made in Paris, by one of the most exclusive designers in the world, the same designer who had refused to make anything for Vanessa last month. My stylist had mentioned her outburst during my last fitting. "It's what I could manage," I said mildly. "Well, you can't come in," Vanessa declared. "We reserved the entire VIP floor. It's for family and distinguished guests only." The VIP floor. My VIP floor. The one I'd personally redesigned last year, down to selecting each piece of artwork and every crystal chandelier. "The distinguished guests being?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Oh, you wouldn't know them," my mother waved a hand dismissively. "The Andersons, they own that successful law firm. The Blackwoods, old money, you know. And Mr. Harrison from the bank." All very important people. I suppressed a smile. Thomas Anderson leased 3 of my properties. The Blackwoods had recently begged for membership at my most exclusive resort. And Mr. Harrison's bank? Currently seeking a major loan from my investment group. Right, I said. Very important people. Exactly, Vanessa said, clearly pleased I understood my place. So you see why you can't be here. What would people think if they knew Dad's failure of a daughter was serving their drinks? Vanessa, our mother chided softly, though her eyes shone with quiet approval. Be nice. Eleanor made her choices. If she'd stayed with a family firm like you, things would be different. The family firm that now occupied a modest office in one of my buildings, always barely making rent. My property manager's reports were clear. They were months away from folding. Just then, my brother-in-law Gavin appeared, straightening his tie. What's taking so long? Everyone's waiting. He spotted me and his smile faltered. Eleanor. Didn't expect to see you here. Clearly not, I replied. Gavin just made vice president at his bank, my mother announced proudly. Junior vice president, I corrected without thinking. I knew his exact title. My financial team kept me informed on all our banking partners. His bank handled some of my smaller accounts. Well, it's more impressive than whatever you're doing, Vanessa cut in. What is it now? Assistant manager at some chain restaurant. I thought about the board meeting I'd left early this morning, where we discussed acquiring Gavin's bank. The paperwork was probably still sitting on my desk, upstairs, in my private office in this very building. Something like that, I said. This is ridiculous, my mother snapped. Eleanor, just go. You're making a scene. Couldn't afford it, you mean, Vanessa added with a laugh. I looked past them, through the glass doors into the grand entrance of the hotel I had built from the ground up. The marble floors I'd chosen. The crystal chandeliers I'd commissioned. The artwork I'd personally curated. Every inch was mine. For a moment, I considered letting them keep believing the story they'd written for me. Let them have their party. Let them think they'd won. But then I remembered walking away all those years ago with nothing but a dream, and the words my first mentor had told me, success means nothing if you can't stand up for yourself. My jaw tightened. I straightened my shoulders. The sting in my fingers faded, replaced by a calm clarity. I wasn't here to beg for a place. I was here to take my seat at the head of the table. Actually, I said quietly, I think I'll stay. Before my mother could respond, the heavy glass doors swung open and Owen, my head of security, stepped outside. Owen had been with me since I bought my first failing hotel 7 years ago. He guarded my front desk in those early days when I was working 18-hour shifts and had stayed by my side as we turned one property into a global empire. Is everything all right here, Madam CEO? His voice carried clearly across the entrance. Your usual table is ready, and Chef Michelle held the menu tasting for your approval. The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush bone. Vanessa's mouth fell open, her perfectly painted lips now looking too bright against skin that had gone pale. My mother gripped the brass door handle like she needed it to keep standing. I smiled warmly at Owen. Perfect timing. My family was just explaining how I couldn't afford to dine here. Ma'am? Owen's brow furrowed in genuine confusion. But you own the entire hotel chain. Yes, I said simply, turning to my stunned family. I do. Now, shall we go inside? I believe you've reserved the VIP floor. My VIP floor, to be precise. Gavin finally found his voice. This is some kind of joke. You're just a restaurant manager. Owen stepped in, his tone professional but firm. Miss Eleanor is the founder and CEO of Azure Hospitality Group. She owns all 35 Grand Azure hotels worldwide, along with our luxury resorts and restaurant chains. Vanessa's clutch slipped from her fingers and hit the marble with a sharp clatter. But that's impossible. The Grand Azure is worth billions, I finished for her. Which makes your comment about me not affording the tasting menu rather amusing, don't you think? I stepped past them into the lobby I had built brick by brick, choice by choice. The marble floors gleamed under the light of the chandeliers I'd commissioned. The air carried the subtle fragrance I'd selected after testing hundreds of blends. Good evening, Miss Eleanor, my front desk manager called out with a warm smile. The executive suite is prepared for your father's birthday celebration. Thank you, Rachel. I turned back to my family, still rooted in the doorway like gawkers at an art piece they couldn't afford. Coming. They followed in silence, their eyes darting from the handcrafted columns to the towering floral arrangements. Every staff member greeted me by name, each with the quiet, genuine respect that comes from years of shared work, not blind loyalty. But your dress, my mother finally managed, her voice oddly small. Custom made in Paris. Around 30,000, if I had to guess. I shrugged. I've stopped checking price tags. I pressed the key card to the private elevator. Unlike Vanessa's dress, which I believe is a knockoff, the real Valentino collection hasn't even been released yet. I know because I attended the private showing last month. The elevator doors slid open to reveal the VIP lounge, the hum of laughter and clinking glasses dying instantly as we entered. My father sat at the head table, a glass of champagne halfway to his lips, his face a portrait of shock. Eleanor, he said slowly, what are you doing here? Your mother said you couldn't afford it. I finished for him. Happy birthday, Dad. I hope you don't mind me crashing the party in my own hotel. Your hotel? His voice was uncertain now, unsteady. Yes. Mr. Harrison from the bank was already on his feet, relief breaking across his features. Miss Eleanor, I had no idea you were Robert Thompson's daughter. We've been trying to secure a meeting with you for months about that loan. Eleanor owns the Grand Azure? Thomas Anderson, the high-powered attorney, turned to my father. Robert, your daughter is the mysterious CEO who's been buying up prime real estate across the city? My father sank back into his chair, color draining from his face. All this time, when we thought you were failing, I offered. Barely scraping by? A disappointment. He didn't answer. None of them did. I let the silence stretch, long enough for the truth to settle into every corner of the room. Then, with deliberate calm, I slid the small envelope from my clutch and set it in front of him. That, I said, is the deed to a villa in Tuscany. I was going to give it to you quietly, before I realized you didn't think I belonged here. Consider it a reminder, Dad, that even when you tried to shut me out, I was still building. Still winning. I straightened, my eyes sweeping the table. And I haven't forgotten the way every single one of you laughed when I left the family firm. I learned something from that. That betrayal cuts deep, but success cuts deeper. It was no longer just my father's birthday. It was the day I reclaimed my name. And the day they learned what it truly cost to underestimate me. Just a glorified waitress, I repeated slowly, raising an eyebrow. Your words, I believe, from the day I left the family firm to pursue my dreams in hospitality. My mother still clutched her pearls like they were a lifeline. But why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? I asked quietly. You didn't believe in me 10 years ago when I needed your support. Why would I share my success with people who only measure worth by the size of someone's bank account? I paused, letting the weight of my next words land. Though, by that metric, I suppose I'm worth more than everyone in this room combined. Vanessa collapsed into a nearby chair, her face drained of all color. The villa in the south of France I tried to rent last summer, the one that was mysteriously unavailable. Mine, I confirmed without hesitation. My property manager forwarded me your reservation request, not realizing the connection. I turned my gaze on Gavin. Just like the office building your firm is struggling to lease, also mine. And the resort membership you've been waitlisted for, Mother. Eleanor, my father began, his voice unsteady. Save it, I said, holding up a hand. I didn't reveal this to hurt you, though you've hurt me plenty over the years. I did it because I'm tired of hiding my success to spare your pride. I turned to address the room. Please, enjoy the party. Everything is on the house. My house. I started to walk away, then paused. Oh, and Dad, that envelope Vanessa wouldn't let me give you? It's the deed to a villa in Tuscany. One of my most exclusive properties. Consider it a birthday gift from your failure of a daughter. The next hour felt almost surreal. People who had barely acknowledged me at past family gatherings now spoke to me with eager interest. The Blackwoods practically begged for that resort membership. Mr. Harrison from the bank cornered me about his loan application. Through it all, My family sat in stunned silence. Vanessa's fiancé disappeared halfway through the evening after realizing her promised future partnership depended on a lease she couldn't afford in my building. Gavin kept making hushed phone calls, likely updating his resume. My mother alternated between teary apologies to me and loud declarations to other guests that she'd always believed in her daughter's potential. As the evening wound down, I found my father alone on the terrace, staring out at the skyline. "Those buildings," he said quietly, pointing toward the glittering horizon. "How many do you own?" "Enough," I replied, stepping beside him. "The family firm's building included." He nodded slowly. "I was wrong about you, Eleanor. So terribly wrong." "Yes," I said evenly. "You were." He looked at me, his expression heavy. "Can you ever forgive us?" I considered the question, sifting through years of dismissal, mockery, and condescension. "Forgiveness isn't the issue, Dad. Respect is. You never respected my abilities. You only respect success after it's proven." And now, I allowed myself the smallest smile. "Now you can tell people your daughter owns the Grand Azure. That should satisfy your need for impressive dinner party conversation." I left him there on the terrace and headed toward my private office on the top floor. Tomorrow, the family dynamic would shift beyond repair. Vanessa would no longer be the golden child. My mother would scramble to rewrite history. Gavin's bank would likely face acquisition. But tonight? Tonight, I had finally taken my seat at the table, a table I built myself, in a room I owned, under a roof I paid for. And that was worth more than any amount of belated family approval.